Preston here from JavaLogics. One of the most common questions I get asked from customers is, how much should I spend on marketing online? The short, unclear answer is it depends. It depends on your budget. And I know that sucks as an answer. That's not usually what you're kind of looking to hear. But to be honest, I've got the opportunity to work with, many specialists at Facebook, at Google, at LinkedIn, different marketing platforms out there. And, pretty much a consistent answer that I always get back from them is, it depends on your budget. That seems like a pretty, vague way to tell people what your budget is, which is true. Marketing is one of these cost of business that you should be allocating a certain amount of your budget towards marketing. Really, the answer, it depends on your budget. So I think what you're trying to say is that you should know your numbers to be able to know what you should be spending on marketing. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to try and explain to you guys in a simple formula, something that usually works pretty close. And this is a number that I took from way back in the days when I was in the university studying marketing, and it kind of went into the real life when I was working for a big corporation. When I looked at the numbers in terms of how much are they spending towards advertising, it came pretty close to this number. And I'm going to share it with you guys because if you're a small business owner and you don't know how much you should be spending on marketing, this should help you out. Okay, so your marketing budget is usually about between 20% on the low end to 30% is your safe zone. Some companies will go higher depending on how much you're growing, and some of them will be lower. Now, you're asking me 20 to 30% of what? All right, 20% of your profit, or what you take out of the business, is what you should be reinvesting back into your marketing. Now, depending on the kind of product or service you sell, 20% will be different. So for example, if you're offering a service, you might be operating at about 80% margin because let's say you're a realtor, you sell a home for $10,000. If you're not part of any kind of an expensive broker, your fees might be 5%. And then you might have another 10% for all your marketing materials and so forth. And that remaining amount is about that you pay yourself. So essentially, if you're running a business that you want to keep growing and scaling, you should be spending 20% of that $8,000. All right, so you should reinvest that into marketing. Now you got to also think of other things. Where are you spending your marketing dollars? Are you spending it only online? Are you putting some of it online, some of it into your print? Are you part of another franchise that takes a certain percent of your marketing? So all of these things need to be taken into consideration when you're deciding how much you're spending on marketing. You have to think of all those things as well, right? Because that all contributes to part of your profit. So here's the exercise for you to do. What you want to do, you want to see how much is your average transaction. So let's say you sell a product, for simple numbers, you sell a product for $100, all right? If that product has a cost of, let's say $40, so 40% cost, and that's how much you have to pay to buy the product, you're going to subtract that number 40% from it. So that leaves you with 60%. Now, you might say that, there are a lot of fixed costs that you allocated to this product because it's part of a whole organization. So things like, let's say rent or labor fees or supplies that are needed or packaging or shipping costs, and all these things kind of take another 20%, $20 off of that. So that now brings your number down to 40%. Okay, so out of the $100 you made from the customer, you're left with $40 at the end of it, which is a typical business. Many businesses operate around that, about a 40% profit. So then what you want to do is you want to take 20% of this $40. Okay, so 10% is 4, so $8 out of that is your marketing budget. So that's your marketing. Forgive me if the math is off. Okay, so you should spend $8 to acquire a new customer in a model like this. If you make $100 profit, obviously you bump that up to $40 if you're making $1,000 profit, if my math is right. All right, so I hope that helps. That's a pretty close guideline, and if you're running within these numbers, and that's on the low end, 20%, sorry, is on the low end. That's a business who has it well optimized. Now, you might want a consideration. You might see things like if you're running a funnel, you might need to build a website. You might need to build landing pages. All these things are going to increase your costs, and you could see your marketing budget, especially in the beginning, creeping up to 40, 45% when you're starting off. But you should work to bring that down to about the 30%. And if you're doing part of the marketing as well, like you do some networking and so forth, you want to allocate your time, right? Because you might say, hey, 20% seems like a lot because you're not even spending that right now. But when you add up all the time you're spending, you know, going to networking meetings, meeting people, consulting, giving away freebies, giving your products, all that kind of stuff needs to quantify in terms of that number as well, right? So you want to take that in mind, and I hope this helps, all right? It works pretty close. I learned this from a textbook style. I didn't really believe it. When I went into work for a bigger company, a lot bigger than me, the number that they looked at was about advertising represented about 2%, which is about 20% of their profit. When I'm working with customers right now, when I look at the ones that are successful and they're budgeting out and what number seems to kind of click for them, it's about a 20% of their profit, okay? Hopefully that helps. And if you like this video, don't forget to subscribe if you're new here. If you want to get notifications like this, my team put me up to a challenge to deliver content, deliver value. So I'll be putting out a lot more videos like this in the not too distant future. So hit the notification bell to get notified next time I do one of these videos.